for are pretty much nil. He speaks by the Justice Center, a person who is sitting, a parking attendant. She hears what she thinks is a gunshot. There's two officers standing nearby, and they call dispatch, and they start pursuing Timothy's car. They go over the Detroit Superior Bridge, they lose sight of him. Mind you that the stop that Timothy's originally fleeing from is not written in the police log. It's done completely, it's not above board. It was illegal. Completely illegal. There's absolutely no justification for it. Nobody knew that that happened until witnesses at the shelter were interviewed. And then it came out. What ends up happening, these two individuals are riding down 25th Street, about 6 cars start in pursuit. They head on 90 East and there's about a half-hour police pursuit in which 60 squad cars from 8 different police departments start following them. They leave their jurisdiction and end up in East Cleveland. They end up in the Heritage Middle School parking lot where they basically are bulldozed in by, at this point, 60 squad cars, over 100 police officers. There's mass panic, mass hysteria, and there's 137 shots fired into these two individuals. Timothy Russell's hit 24 times in the face and hands trying to cover his face. Melissa's hit 29 times in the face and hands and torso. Basically, they are ravaged, they're dead. They had no chance. The whole reason this pursuit continues is because, first of all, dispatch was saying there are 2 black males in the car who are armed and dangerous. There is no weapon found in the car. There was never a weapon. If you actually read the dispatch reports, at one point one officer who's witnessing this and is in the pursuit sees what he says is, "That's not a gun, that's a can of pop." And sure enough, at the crime scene, there's a red Coca-Cola can in the car, along with Melissa wearing black gloves. These 2 individuals were killed. There's been, at this point, really no justice for these 2 individuals. Not to say that people weren't out in front of the Justice Center every Friday last year, but the show of support was meager at best, I guess. There's really no solidarity for these 2 people who were massacred in one of the sickest shows of police brutality that this world has really ever witnessed. The police union immediately after, about a week after there were calls for repercussions for the officers involved and who ended up shooting. Mind you, today, there was a lot of things that were going through my head when I was thinking about this. I actually had like a whole performance around this that I was going to do, but I think more or less I just want to inform people what happened because I don't know if that even needs to go on.
Thanks, Dad.
But my grandpa died this past weekend, and I went to his wake today, and I was with my family, and I was looking through a whole photo album, and my grandpa was actually a Cleveland police officer back in the 1940s. And for some reason I have all these feelings of guilt about that, which I know are just completely unfounded, and it's whatever. I mean, he had 6 children, he's a loving father, and I have my life to thank for him. But understanding that there are systemic institutions in the city that fuck people's lives up regularly, routinely, and there's no consequences is not something that is just, let alone any person in this room, in the city, should accept, stand for. And you need to make demand from your institution. You make demand from the law enforcement that routinely harasses you. You can't simply sit idly by, complain or whatever. I know I do that, but it's not entirely right. What I was getting at, though, I kind of lost my train of thought, I'm sorry. What I was getting at, not all these officers were evil people. That has to be understood. The person who fired 48 shots he did 6 tours in Afghanistan, and he has major PTSD, and he was in a panic. And that there's systems in that country that make people basically operate as quasi-military outfits against their own citizenry, against their own neighbors, that's something that should be questioned. Not to rationalize or justify anything that happened. It's evil. It's sheer evil. And the fact that the police union is calling for no consequences for those individuals immediately afterwards, that there is a circle your wagons mentality at the Cleveland Police Department, that's evil and that's not right. A racist mentality, a systematic racist mentality, and that's not. Go talk to people. It's out there. Talk to any individual on the streets and find out how many times that they know someone who's gotten beat, they know someone who's gotten harassed, they know someone who's gotten thrown in jail without any jurisprudence. It happens every single day in Cleveland, Ohio, and the surrounding suburbs. I mean, it's nuts. But all I guess I'm trying to say is, please look out for each other. Please make sure that your neighbor is safe, that you're safe. Please make sure that you don't take shit from anybody. You don't let anybody hurt your friends, your neighbors, anybody. And speak up when there's major injustice. And let's just remember for a second that there are human beings in the city who are not safe right now. Until we're all safe, until we all can feel comfortable on these streets, no one's safe.
Yeah.
One more thing, I did it last year, just as part of the effort to get word out, did go through the whole investigation documents and distilled it, and I did bring copies of that. So if you're not familiar with the whole case, I do have basically a distilled version of what actually happened that night. So talk to me. I'm happy to talk to you. And we're in this together. So.